Hi, I'm Juanita. I'm with Teak Farms. How are you?
Hi, Juanita. I'm doing well. I'm Jarryd.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
First things first, we're actually recording this. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. No problem.
All right, awesome. We like to get to know a little bit more about the people that we could potentially have working with us. So it's okay if you don't have any experience, but do you have any experience in the field?
Yeah, I do. I have a degree in agriculture from U of A. I specialized in hydroponics. I was at I don't know if you know the SEAC. It's over on Campbell and Grant. It's like a university associated bunch of greenhouses out there. I worked out there for about a year growing hydro tomatoes.
Okay.
And I just recently came off a 6-month contract at Bayer Crop Sciences. They're up in Marana. And they had a big 7-acre greenhouse. They're growing seed corn up there.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So have some experience growing some stuff, not necessarily cannabis, but you do have.
Absolutely, yeah. Not necessarily specifically cannabis, but in the area, yeah.
All right, awesome. So tell me a little bit more about you outside of like your experience.
Sure. So I'm 27. I graduated from U of A last year in May of last year. I have always been really interested in kind of sustainable agriculture, the future of ag and things like that. And so that was why I went into that in school. And then it kind of coincided with the medical industry here taking off. And so towards the end of my education, the last year or two, I started really seriously looking at going into the cannabis industry. Just because it's such a big thing now, and I mean it's right up my alley with the hydro stuff. And so I'm trying to kind of point myself in that direction, and how I found out about you guys was through I'm in a couple of discords and some subreddits and stuff, kind of talking about the Arizona medical marijuana community. And somebody posted your guys' Instagram page, and they said, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of this? I think it was Loud Lab is the Instagram page."
Yeah, that's our brand. That's our brand. But Teak Farms is the actual company and the agricultural company that grows the
Okay,
product.
good deal. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so they said that it was I'm not certain exactly like the background, but they said it was like a former person from Grow Science. From what I know, that's like a really reputable brand and things like that. And so immediately and you guys are in Tucson, which I'm in Tucson. I mean, so much of the industry is centered around Phoenix. So I immediately made me interested in you guys. I wanted to reach out as fast as I can and see if I can and come help you guys in any way.
Okay, cool. Just to clarify, you said that you're in Tucson. You live in Tucson, right?
Yes, I do live in Tucson.
All right, awesome. And to also clarify, our master grower is John Chavez, who was one of the growers over at Grow Science. If you watch a lot of their videos, you'll see him in it, and you'll hear how much kudos the owners of the actual Grow Science give him, and they say that he ran their whole facility. So we were definitely lucky to pick him up, and there's tons to learn from him because he is definitely one of the best. He brought a lot of our plants back to life, got us some strands, and has been doing a wonderful job. So what would you say are some of your strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, totally. I'm very kind of technically inclined as far as strengths go. So I'm a computer guy, and I'm very I joke that like part of my job at Bayer was just helping the older people with their computer issues, and I would say that's a good strength of mine. I'm very friendly. I'm just kind of open. I always try and cultivate like a good friendly atmosphere around me in a work environment. I think that's important to work well as a team together, and to all just kind of be on the same page and putting your energies towards the right place. A weakness of mine, I would say just this is always a hard question. A weakness of mine is that I would like to I tend to in certain situations. I'm only just graduated from college last year in May, and I've only worked in one job. One of the things that at my old job that I had a few problems with would be um, maybe taking offense to things in the workplace, I guess I should say. At my old company, it was really kind of a situation of like, don't keep your head down, really. It was kind of what it is. And I'm more of an outspoken person. When something's wrong, I like to figure out what I can do to fix it, rather than, say, oh, that's someone else's job or something else like that. But in certain situations, those responses are more, in certain organizations, I should say, my old job, really corporate, those responses are more valued to say, oh, we'll pass the buck to someone else. There's a lot of days where I had to tell myself, I don't run the company.
Okay. What would you say are your time obligations right now? Are you looking for full-time, part-time work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm available up to full time right now. Um, I would be happy to do that. I do have a few questions for you as to what the duties and responsibilities of the job specifically are.
Okay. I usually ask those questions towards the end, like when I talk about transparencies. Maybe some of your questions may be answered throughout our interview. So that's why I kind of like to reserve those for the end. But I'm glad that you do have questions. And I definitely want to be able to answer those. At this point, are you able to lift about 40 pounds
Mhm.
comfortably? And you could
Oh,
be on your feet 3 to 4 hours a day?
yes, I can.
Okay. Um, it is really important here that you have critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. So could you tell me about a time when you had to learn something new?
Yeah, certainly. Um, a good example is before I left Bayer. I had a project that I was given a charge of was creating a water sample map of the entire facility. And it was essentially a blueprint map of different places we could sample water throughout the entire facility. And it was kind of a worst case scenario that, like, if we need every single thing that we can sample, I put on there. And I had to go to different organizations or different groups within our organization to talk to that, like different teams who are in charge of different stuff. So I had to go talk to irrigation team for that, for information that I had to get from them. And it was really a situation that I kind of led myself. I had to go through to like our maintenance team and pull blueprints from them for a starting point. And then I do value that very heavily, like communication and working well with others. So that, I think that's a good example of a situation where I used uh, my own problem solving skills to kind of figure out what I needed to do to accomplish this project. And then at the end, I had a nice blueprint of the entire facility with numbered spots for each water sample location we could sample at. And it was actually a really nice project in the end.
All right, right on. Would you consider yourself an organized person?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very kind of put things in boxes type of person, and at my old job, I did a lot of data processing with spreadsheets and things like that, and so I would be totally geared into that for if you were looking for something like that.
Okay. Um, I know that I had mentioned, well, not I didn't mention it, you actually mentioned it, working in a team playing environment. Um, Within your experiences of working within a team environment, you kind of brought something up when you used your example of how you had to learn something new. How do you handle conflict? Because everybody is not going to get along. What would you do if you had an issue with, someone you were working with? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I will say that there was a few conflicts at my old job, and it was things that you have to handle yourself interpersonally in those situations, at least. I'm always a talk about things guy. I will talk about stuff until people are tired of me talking about it, I guess. But I like to, I don't know. Like I said, I do like to kind of cultivate that peaceful environment around me. If things are I will always try and fix a situation, you know, and in interpersonal conflicts, things like that, you know, it's something where uh, you try and work it out, and then if it's necessary, you say, hey, you know, should we sit down and talk about this? Um, I had a situation like that at my other job where one of my coworkers I felt wasn't communicating as well as they could have been. They were kind of going off and doing things on their own and not really sharing things with the team. And it was a thing where I brought up to them, you know, hey, we don't know what you're up to, like we don't know where you're at in the facility and things like that. Um, and I always try and come at it nicely. Um, if it doesn't work out, me making my best efforts, then I do think it's makes sense to go to someone above you. I would go to either my manager, well, usually my manager. I would not go to someone else's manager and complain about their person underneath them. But I would just say to my manager, if they're asking how our work was going, I would say, you know, well, we did our best on this and this and this. This specific team, you know, they were too busy, couldn't make time for us, something like that. And then just make clear that I made every effort that I could. Um, you know, I do try and work things out.
Okay.
That's important to me.
All right. Awesome. It's important that the people that work here are passionate about what they're doing. Why would you want to work for our company?
Yeah, so I did already bring it up that I know you guys kind of have that pedigree, that growing pedigree at least. Um, you know, the Tucson cannabis industry scene, it really needs a lot of improvement, in my opinion. And, you know, there's maybe only 2 or 3 places that are worth going in town, brands that are worth shopping at. Otherwise, the stuff comes down from Phoenix. I think you guys are like a great opportunity to kind of put Tucson on the map as far as like a boutique brand goes. You
Yeah, we're
know,
definitely high grade.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's what we need, is that we need another brand that's up there to talk about with True, or talk about with Grow Science, or talk about in the same conversation, you know.
Okay.
And
So now is the transparency portion of things. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did I cut you off?
no problem.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm from New York, so sometimes I tend to get a little, and I
Understood.
want to make sure I'm not doing that with you.
No,
Um,
no, that's fine.
Now it kind of comes down to transparency. I know that you had some questions for me. What were some of the questions that you had?
Well, you just said the position is an administrative assistant position, or agricultural administration
Correct.
position. I wanted to kind of hammer out what exactly that is specifically. Like, what would be my duties day to day, things like that.
Okay, so this is a good thing. I know that you have a lot of growing experience. Agricultural administration would more or less be dealing with or working with the grower to ensure that he has the inventory that he needs, in addition to keeping track of all the plants, working hand in hand with our CFO, ensuring all of the records and everything from the plants tied together. You'd also be responsible for connecting with the dispensaries and telling them about our product. And that's kind of where your experience or your background comes into play, because you do know about growing plants, what makes our products the best, what soil we're using. You know, you might be able to establish those connections a lot better than someone who doesn't have that knowledge or background, but we are a ground level company. So you will have the opportunity to go in there and work with John. We're a small company, so all hands on deck,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
So if we need you in the grow room, guess what? You're going in the grow room,
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
you
sure.
know?
I'm sure on trim days, you know, it's all
Yes,
hands
if
on
we need
deck.
you
Yeah.
to, I'm glad that you brought that up, because when you come in, let's say the boss likes your interview, he wants you to come in. The next step would be a facility visit where we would see how you interact with the remaining team members that are actually hired. You might have to get in there and do some trimming, you know.
Right. Right.
Um, just want to see how you interact with people. But like I said, all hands on deck, and there's tons of room for growth. I know that right now we don't have an actual hands-on plant job for you, you know, but
Sure.
just an example, we had a different assistant grower than what we had a couple months ago, you know, and
Sure.
the person who is now our assistant grower was a laborer, you know,
Sure.
prior to that. So there's a lot of room for growth within the company, but you will still be given the opportunity to work and interact with like our master grower, which I know is something that you're interested in. But this is more of, like I mentioned, in agricultural administration, just making sure everybody has what they need,
Hmm.
and overseeing that stuff like the inventory and
Hmm.
sales and being organized within that aspect of things.
Hmm.
Does that
Okay.
sound like something that you're able to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about some things that I did previously that I could apply to that. I mean, at my old job, when I kept track of chemical inventory was a big thing, our ordering and things like that. Um, Talking about lifting 50-pound bags, those big bags of nitrate,
Yeah, exactly.
hauling
It's
those with
important. A
me.
lot of people don't realize that you do need to be able to do things like that. They just think that you
Hmm.
come in and, you sit down, you're growing things and watering things. And yeah, not so much. There's going
No,
to
there's
be
a
some
lot of
days
work. I
when you're
know.
doing some labor.
Hmm. Certainly, yeah, certainly. Yeah, so I mean, and as far as connecting with dispensaries and other places around town, the sales aspect of it, um, I don't know if you saw on my resume, but I have a little kind of dipped my toes in that experience when I was at U of A. I was part of the student radio station there, and part of my duties was reaching out to promoters and keeping up online kind of email correspondence and things like that. So it
That's
does seem
awesome.
kind of up that same alley.
That's awesome. The good thing about our situation is it's not going to be a cold calling situation. We have an over influx of people that want our product,
I
you
bet.
know? So it's
I
not
bet.
like you're going to be doing a lot of cold calling and saying, hey, we're Teak
Yeah.
Farms.
You
Have you
probably
heard
have
of
people
us?
fighting over you.
Yeah. It's not going to be like, hey, have you heard of us? It's going to be like, yeah, guess what? We have X amount of pounds left over. Do you want it? And this is
Gotcha.
the amount that it's for. And this is
Gotcha.
why we charge that amount?
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like something that is up my wheelhouse, in my wheelhouse.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is, like I mentioned, give this video, let the CFO and the CEO review this. If they like you, I'll be sending you an email letting you know, hey, can you come into the facility during this time and work these hours? After that, they're going to evaluate who they want to fill that position because we have interviewed a couple of people for this.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, you'll be hired.
Sure thing.
But if
All
you
right.
have
Thanks,
any
Juanita.
No worries. If you have any questions in the interim of things, feel free to hit us up on the email or, visit our website. We have our
Mhm.
contact information, our direct telephone number. But
Okay.
there's always correspondence via the info at
Hmm.
tfarms.com.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Have a good one. It was great speaking with you. All
I appreciate it. It's nice speaking with you too. Take care.
right. Bye.